Hi guys, welcome to the channel, and this video here is being made in celebration of almost 300 videos on my channel, which is a number I never thought that I would ever reach. So I thought, for fun, this being the 299th video, that I would set the bar just a little bit lower and just celebrate early and let the 300th video be the start of another series that I'll be starting. For this video in particular, I'm just going to be kind of playing Final Fantasy 15 in the background while we discuss 15 things about the game. Or rather, there's 15 preset questions that I had in mind to discuss the answers to, and maybe if it gets a bit bigger than that, it just will. So be prepared for a rather lengthy live stream. Okie dokie, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Okie doke. Start with the first one.
All right, hold on. Let me scroll back up. I just actually had to read a couple of them. Okay, the first question is going in, what was your expectation of what the story would be?
Okay, so a long time ago, Final Fantasy 15 advertised this sort of over the shoulder slash first person shooter, and it displayed Noct just like doing acrobatic stunts and jumping into limousines and through windows and doing like pseudo stealth stuff, and it was all about reclaiming his kingdom. And I thought, oh, it's gonna be a little weird, you know, getting used to a first person shooter when he does magic or whatever, but I think I'll get used to it. It'll just be kind of different. So yeah, that was my first initial thoughts. What about you?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, at first, it was actually when I first saw it was when the first trailer came out with Final Fantasy 13.
Oh yeah,
When
Versus
that trailer
13.
came out, yeah, when it was actually called Versus 13. I thought it was going to be dark and gritty and, something that we probably would have never seen before. And and yeah, I was kind of disappointed, you know, closer to the end of the cycle, where they changed it up and it became more of a boy band type of thing.
I
Like
see.
it was just, yeah, and then it turned out to be like, oh, you're going around with your pals on a road trip, and it, I mean, it it didn't connect to me as much as it should have, but I kind of got what they were trying to go with. I mean, showing something dark for, you know, for the audience, that's something that I actually want. I wanted something that, you know, it expressed the human nature of things. Like how we go to war and stuff like that. And what I got was a boy band that's on a road trip.
Well, my first reaction, I actually thought Versus 13 was a different game entirely when you were talking about it.
Yeah,
Um,
and the
but
gameplay. Oof.
of what you were talking about goes into the second question. So go ahead and read that for me right now.
Oh, okay. Considering the changes, do you like what the story is now?
Okay. So, now that it's all about this would-be boy band traveling the world, I was a little I was a little surprised. It was really bizarre. I just considering the story of Arden and how all that came into play, I thought it was very I thought it was a really good story. It's just it took a while to get there, and I didn't know what the story was for the longest time. So it it's like the game did something halfway through where I had to change my expectations another time.
Let's go. Indeed.
So for me, it was I had an initial response. I thought it was going to be one thing, and then the game kept going in a completely different direction, even from the start. And I thought, okay, well, when's it going to get to this? When's it going to get to this? And it never went that direction. And it seemed like it was going in a direction that wasn't all that exciting, at least for a while. But when I went through chapters 9 through 13, I was very impressed. I actually like where the story is now. I'm going to lead into the next one, which is
Oh, nice here.
I wish I could have seen what the original story was. And I suppose since we'll never see what that original story was like, it's just best to
Let's do this.
give the story we have now the credit it deserves for the terrible production value that it went through. I mean, 10 years of, being switched in the hands of different creators. I mean, it was one guy's vision. Yeah, it was one guy's vision, and then it was suddenly another's, and then this other guy decided that he was going to take it over because he had no choice, and he's just like, okay, better finish this game.
Yeah, and then the original creator was forced off of it because it was taking so long.
So,
yeah.
So yeah, that's for what it is. I think it's pretty good. So I'll read off the next question for you, since I kind of have hinted what I think already. Did the final product meet or exceed your expectations?
It's a hard question to ask, but I mean, given the fact that the beginning of the game, you kind of lose sight of what the story is, and then it picks right back up at like chapter 9. Then like you're like dropped in the middle of those chapters, trying to figure out what the story is. That's my only problem with the actual game, because when you're doing like all the side quests and stuff like that, then they should have added more into the story through that, but they didn't, which was kind of disappointing.
Well, we can save that discussion for a little bit later.
Yeah, but if it met or exceeded my expectations, it met them with a good story at the end.
Okay, I think that's fair.
Yeah, I mean it is fair because how long it took for them to get to this point. I wouldn't have expected any less than what we got. So I really think that it met my expectations, but I kind of knew what I was getting into when I bought the game. So yeah, it met my expectations. And,
get out. Well, I'm not so certain about whether it met my expectations. It was vastly different from my expectations, but considering what I got, it was still a story worth seeing and being invested in. It may not have been the story I was looking for, but it was a story that I was glad that I got to experience. So in the end, I guess it comes out about even. There's a little bit of lacklusterness here and there, but all in all, it's not too bad.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, fine. Yeah, all right. Stupid truck. Some guy just stopped dead in front of me and then just drove around.
Okay, let me see here. I'll ask the next question.
Okay.
What was your first impression of the gameplay?
Ah, Okay. So, I was like, oh, it's gonna be kind of like Kingdom Hearts, but it isn't. Mostly because Kingdom Hearts is very direct control of the combos, whereas all you have to do with Noctis is hold one button and he kind of completes it for you. The one thing I was really worried about when I started the game was, is it just gonna be a bunch of side quests in an open world that has a vaguely present main story? And that goes into some of my harsher criticisms for later on, but initially I was not getting a sense of a story and more of a, these are some random quests here and there, I would like you to complete them, please, and you know, you have to do it in order to get any idea of what the story is going to be, because for now you're trapped. So my first 2 hours were just me wandering around killing things like I'm doing right now, except I was being made to, and I had to walk from one area to where the monsters were, and then I had to walk back, and then I had to walk to another spot that was even further. It felt very repetitive and not in a very rewarding way. And coming from someone who really likes to grind, I'm okay with repetitive. Normally. It's just, you know, like, I can kill this guy, turn around, kill that guy, turn around, kill that guy. But it's all happening in very fluid, natural sort of progression. Whereas, if it's in a quest where I go travel forever to kill like 5 of them, and then go back, and then go out again to kill another 3 of them, it just, it doesn't feel very rewarding. It's actually more tedious than anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I did not really appreciate the way the game began. I know they were looking for the open world, but there's something about the open world itself that should not excuse a lack of a main storyline. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
I mean, the main storyline is there. It's not as present as it should be.
Yeah.
Do you share those feelings, or is there something slightly different about your first impression of the gameplay?
Well, my first impression, I actually saw the original gameplay trailer when they first showed it, and I actually thought it was going to be a Kingdom Hearts like game, because how the whole thing was set up. You had your attack, you had your magic, you had your summon, and you had your items. Like it was like the same thing on the side, and it was basically mirroring Kingdom Hearts. It really was, and it showed how it should be. I mean, to me, I think that's what it should have been. But we got a more action-oriented type of. I mean, the way with the Noctis was in the Versus 13, he was able to summon all these weapons and use them, and through his combos. That's something I actually wanted. That's something I wanted as the actual gameplay itself. But what I got was that I can only switch through 4 weapons, and that's it. And then I have like this
The
limit
armature
break.
chain that takes away
Yeah.
all your HP when you use it.
Yeah, and then what I got was, you know, something that I couldn't even use that often, and it didn't feel right for me. But the way that I play RPGs is that I use magic anyways. But
Magic
just
was a
think that
real
it was-
lifesaver. Oh my gosh, you were totally right about the magic being OP. Like, if you're severely underleveled, it's such a lifesaver, and I'm glad that they'd included that in their gameplay, because I was not being rewarded very well for skipping through all the rather tedious side quests and stuff. I didn't want
Yeah,
to
the whole
rely on
thing.
them to continue on with the main story.
Yeah. And with how that was, just it, I actually wanted it to feel more like Kingdom Hearts. I mean, this is my preference for the fact that they were trying to sell a product where you can actually summon so many different weapons at the exact like using so many combos, being able to summon weapons. And they actually had a nice gameplay for it. Basically, everything was chained up one thing after another. So basically, you set up your sword, your glaive, and all that stuff, and then basically you would just use one thing, and they'll switch off to another, and they'll switch off to another as you keep on attacking. Like you were like, it would just do the combos on its own, type of thing, and that's what I liked about it. But what I got was something very different, and I'm okay with it, but I still prefer the Kingdom Hearts type of gameplay that I saw with the first trailer. So
Wow, we are making it so negative already. We're already turning people away. They're like, oh man, they're just dissing on my favorite game. What?
I mean, I mean, I still like it. I mean,
Yeah.
the whole story is what actually got me to continue playing it.
Speaking of which, can we have the next question, please?
Okay. What element of the story grabbed your attention early on?
It was definitely the romance. I was even though we were making fun of everything at the get-go with, fidget spinners and all that because I wasn't really paying attention to the story because there was no real reason to at the moment. Anytime it went, "Oh, we got that book from the dog. Oh, we get to see Luna Freya and young Noctis," I was on board with that. I was a
Yeah.
sucker for that, for the romantic part of the story. And that's how I played the game too. I played it with that romance in mind. So, if anything captured my attention, it was the romance.
I actually don't want to be negative about this one, but I actually have to.
Okay.
I think the romance is what actually saved the story.
Oh! So that was your thing too? Is that what kept
Yeah.
you in?
Yeah, because how they portrayed one another, they were long lost. They were like childhood friends, and they were like in love with each other. From what I got from the Kingsglaive movie, and he was okay with actually marrying her.
Yeah, it was like, oh, they're betrothed, but they seem like they really like each other, so it doesn't seem
Yeah.
like it's a bad thing.
No. So, and how it worked is that with the romance, having those extra scenes with the romance and stuff, how they would talk back and forth between with using the books and using Umbra. That was like the only type of thing that you get with the story, with the open world. That is like basically the only piece of story you will actually get through open world. And that's why I said, like, I think that's what actually saved the whole storyline. And then once you get to like the chapter 9 and stuff like that, and where it kicks off, because of what happens,
Yeah, what
then
happens?
you get, yeah, you get really emotional into it. And
Yeah. And
and
the romance is entirely why I felt as bad as I did about Luna's demise. I
Yeah.
was totally upset about that, and it drives Noctis's character. It drove me. It basically gave me greater incentive to stop making fun of the game and take it seriously.
yeah. It actually, I felt a real emotional thing when I saw her die. Like,
Yeah.
it was just,
I don't think.
I felt, oof. It was just the pain that you can see from Nox. it really gripped you into the story right then and there, and that's when it starts kicking it off. It's
And
like
I think that's when the voice acting became less awkward and more intense and realistic sounding.
yeah,
Like with the
like,
exception of Prompto, everyone else seemed a bit odd.
Prompto was actually
Ooh.
really good for the fact that when it starts to kick off, he was trying to be the middleman. He was trying to get them to stop fighting each other, and that's an actual true friend right there. When you see a friend that just tries to help with any means, I mean, it's just that's a friendship that you would actually want.
Ah!
All right, I'm gonna get into the next question.
Okay.
Of the 4 main party members, who is your favorite?
Gotta say Prompto, man. Prompto is... He's just this really great guy. He and I share... Oh, wait. RNA is joining in. Woo! If you're actually watching what's happening on the live stream screen right now, this actually goes into one of my favorite things. It's a question that I wrote up later on, but let me skip this question for now. The question was, what was your favorite thing that you didn't know about the game? Which is that Aranea will occasionally join your team. I did not know that happened.
Actually, I didn't even know that actually existed.
Exactly. So, were there any unknown surprises about the game that, like, really took you by surprise that you enjoyed?
How you can actually exploit the whole experience. That was the one thing I actually fell in love with. That was like the basic thing I actually liked. Using magic to exploit experience. That was like the perfect thing.
Considering how OP it is in the first place. Yeah.
Yeah, like I actually got to like level 50 during chapter 3. That's really something. Because then when I started actually doing the whole game, it was just very quickly from there on out, because I was just picking up items as I go and picking up weapons, switching out the weapons for better weapons and all of that. And it was just actually a fun time for me because I didn't actually have to worry about anything except for me dying a little bit. But then I would buy like Phoenix Downs. But other than that, I actually boosted up my magic to the point to where it just like literally just one-shotted people, like using that quad casting spells and stuff like that. That stuff was fun.
I gotta say though, aside from the magic being absolutely phenomenally powerful, that totally took me by surprise. You know, I was this underleveled guy, and I was just going through these dungeons, avoiding as many fights as I could because they could kill you in like 2 shots if you weren't careful. And then boom, suddenly it's like, oh, just use your magic. Okay. And then out of nowhere, I just like, there's this Naga. I don't know how I'll be able to kill it. I'll just cast Thunder. What? I can't believe I just took that entire thing down.
Yeah, like magic, especially when you're using weaknesses. You can really exploit it because everyone in the game actually has a weakness to an element, which is really funny because then you can actually play that to your advantage, and then you can like make the most OP spells and just use it on them, and then it'll just wipe them all out.
Yeah, but I gotta say that Aranea was the best surprise, considering she was one of the bosses and she was the one I had the hardest time with because it was so random and I couldn't figure out what the heck I was doing the entire time I was doing it. The fact that she just like joins you later on just because she can, I was like, well, that's a surprise. I thought she was gonna fight me again. But
Alright, so
going back to the question about who our favorite character is.
yeah,
Yeah, I gotta say Prompto. Prompto is a pretty good choice for me. I just like him the most because we have similar hobbies. We both like photography. We both like photos. I can't imagine the game without Prompto. He's always present. He's always there. He's the one guy in the entire group who feels the closest to Noctis, I think. Like, I know, Gladiolus is there, and, like, they're sparring partners or whatever, and he kind of acts like the dad, and Ignis is, like, the really overprotective mom, but
I actually saw
Prompto is the one person who Noctis can just really just relax and be himself around.
Yeah, and you never saw the Brotherhood episodes, have you?
No, I have not.
Okay, well, the reason why he feels close to Nox is for the fact that during the time when he found a puppy that was hurt, and he managed to heal it, and it was basically the dog from Lunafreya.
You mean Umbra?
No, it wasn't Umbra. It was the other one.
I don't know any other dog.
It's basically two. She had like two dogs, one of light and then one of darkness. Umbra was the darkness, and then the other one was I can't remember its name, but basically he helped that dog, and Lunafreya thanked him, and she was trying to talk to Noctis,
Hell no.
but the dog was injured, and she wanted to know how Noctis was, and he felt, like he needed to get close to Noctis because he wanted to be friends with him, so that way he can see Lunafreya.
Prompto, trying to steal my woman. No, I'm just kidding.
It wasn't like that because she felt bad for Noctis because he didn't have any friends. When Prompto saw that, he wanted to be the closest friend to him than anything. He went to school with him, and that's what I mean. Prompto back then, he was like a chubby kid.
He was fat. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
I know that much because they had this like really touching conversation.
yeah, and then when he got that note, he decided to change himself, and he became skinny. So because he thought that that if he was skinny, he'd be friends with Noctis. But
I'd want to be
reality-
more skinny if I could be friends with Noctis. Sure, why not?
Because he actually felt that if he was more skinny, he would be more accepted to be around a prince back then. Because it's like that peer pressure type of thing where he thought that being a cool kid and being around a cool kid would make being like friends with them.
Okay, well we're getting a little off
Yeah.
topic, but who is your favorite character of the four?
My favorite character?
Yeah.
I have no idea. I would have to say it would have to be Gladiolus because of how he like is literally the one person that will probably go shirtless and probably enjoy it. Just like
just because of his
Armstrong.
shirtlessness.
Yeah, just like how Armstrong is in Full Metal Alchemist. You know how he has all that muscle and
I don't watch Full Metal Alchemist.
Oh man. Okay, well, basically, just look up a clip about Armstrong taking off his shirt, and basically he reminds me of that. It's just so funny, and then how he flaunts about how he has nothing but muscle and stuff like that, and he looks good shirtless. I mean, it was actually funny because in one of the uh the dialogues in the game, Noctis was saying, "Gosh, I'm hot," and then he's like, "Why don't you take your shirt off?" And then he's like, no thanks."
Yeah.
Then he's like, "What? You're jealous because I got because I got a nice body or something?" It was like something like that, and it was actually pretty funny because it reminded me of Armstrong.
Okay, well, this guy again, he just crashes his car everywhere. Poor guy. Anyway,
So,
yeah, next up would be how has was your favorite character always your favorite character, or did something happen that caused your um or did your knowledge of the characters as you played the game change who your favorite was, basically?
from the beginning,
Yeah,
mine was actually Prompto.
believe it or not, Prompto was not always my favorite. Prompto seemed like he was kind of just thrown in there, but it after a while of seeing how he developed with all the others, that's how he became my favorite. I didn't really have a favorite, but I felt like I was similar enough to Noctis because he's moody and I was moody, and I was just like, oh man, this game.
Yeah.
It's a stupid reason to feel like you're one with the character, but Noctis is basically forced into this situation that he doesn't want to be in, and the game pretty much forced me in situations I didn't want to be in. So the character that I felt the closest to was Noctis for that reason alone.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess your favorite was always. Oh wait, no, you said it was Prompto. So why was it
Yeah.
Prompto, and then why did it change to Gladiolus?
Like I said, the whole Gladiolus doing the whole dialogue just made it feel like like a callback from Armstrong from Full Metal Alchemist. But what I liked about Prompto was the whole thing about him wanting to ride a chocobo, and he would actually do the
Oh,
whole
yeah.
battle. He would also be the one to do the battle music too.
Yes.
Da, 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 da,
It's just
da, da,
it's just like Chocobo,
uh.
the Chocobo thing, the fact that he's always on his phone and he's a photographer. It was just so easy to make jokes like, "Oh, I'm checking my Instagram likes," or "I love
Yeah.
chocobos." You know, talk about being the world's best chocobo breeder, something akin to Brock from Pokemon.
Yeah.
You know, and he has the impossible crush like Brock from Pokemon. I want to impress Cindy, but I don't know how to talk to her. But then he has crushes on different girls because then he's like all about RNA, and then they're like, "Oh, but which one do you like more, Prompto? You're gonna have to choose." And they both actually all the other three just kind of laugh about how Prompto will never have a chance with Cindy and how he'll never have a chance with any of the girls that he likes. But they'll still tease him about which one he likes more and try to get him to choose. And I think that's so funny.
Yeah. Alright, so the next question is, the game focuses on the bond between 4 party members. What is your opinion of each member, and how did that change over time?
Okay, so I saw Gladiolus as like the man to depend on. But I realized how very fickle that view was. Because after a while, Gladiolus, I hate to say it, but Gladiolus is like, he's probably affected really badly by writing. But Gladiolus is, he's the strong, silent type that all the girls want to be with. And he wants Noctis to focus on being a king and being strong and being the replacement father figure, because Noctis's father is dead, and you know, Noctis's father would be the one to tell Noctis to shape up and to lift up his head, keep his head held high, and to keep his chin up. Except Gladiolus doesn't know how to do it without sounding like a total tool. So
Yeah.
when Like, at first, he's like, "You're not the only one having a bad time. Other people have lives that suck too. Your life is not the only one that sucks. We're going to meet this Titan guy, and you need to have your head in the game so that we don't die here. Because there's more than just you. There's 3 other people who have their lives on the line right now, and you are kind of being annoying right now. So just stop being annoying." You know, at first it's really tame and it really sounds forced, but then he's like, "Your girlfriend's dead, so what?" And he just turns into a total jerk about it. Like, I know he wants Noctis to focus, but like, dude, have a little bit of sympathy. And I know he cares, and he's not meaning to be a jerk, I guess, because it shows in the fact that when they get separated, that's the first thing he thinks of. We gotta make sure that Noctis is safe. We gotta make sure that he's not in danger. I gotta protect him. It's like Gladiolus suffers from a protector's complex. Like, if he's not always there protecting Noctis, then no one else will be able to. And he wants to instill in Noctis a sense of self-reliance. He doesn't want Noctis to always rely on him, but Gladiolus, despite this, will always feel like he needs to be there for Noctis. So even though he never apologized for being a jerk, he still cared. Ignis.
Yeah.
Ignis was the hardest. I actually grew to like Ignis, and through him becoming our personal meme, I just thought he's low key the funniest character in the group. Because his humor just comes out of nowhere. He's the guy that you can easily make a joke with, and he'll just kind of be like, "Oh yeah, I guess I was being funny, wasn't I?"
Yeah, there was actually a meme that I saw today about how Plankton was saying, "I will get that recipe now, Mr. Krabs." And then Ignis pops in. He's like, "Hello."
That's
I
it.
was like, yeah, that is a game over right there for the fact that once he eats it, he will know all the ingredients for it.
I've come up with a new recipe. It just, I'm gonna talk about how unmemorable Dino is. It's just like he's this weird guy. He's this weird guy who he looks like a pretty boy, and he sounds like an Italian mafia member. Like, what's the deal with that? But, you know, Dino is one of those weird characters who looks one way and sounds another, and there's this really odd displacement. And I think Ignis is one of those characters. It's just, he looks one way and he sounds another. But if you think back to Auron Host Club, he's kind of like the dude with glasses from Auron Host Club, whose name I can't remember at the moment. So after a while, I got used to the voice, but at first it was kind of jarring.
Make tracks. Chop chop, Prompto.
Yeah.
You know, Noctis and Prompto sound pretty natural. Gladio sounds like most of his lines are the guy just trying to be more manly than actually reading the emotion in the line. Whereas Ignis has absolutely no emotion whatsoever, because it's all about being proper and polite. But that's who Ignis is. That makes sense. Ignis has a very stoic personality. He's very slow to anger. He doesn't let things get to him as quickly as things get to Noctis. He just
Yeah, you know, I don't even think I've seen Ignis, you know, actually be angry.
There was only one time that I actually saw him just, like, raise his voice, and that was when Gladio was being a total jerk.
Real nice here.
Yeah, but that's usual for someone, for getting on someone's nerves and they just want it to just stop.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
that doesn't mean that he's expressing like pure anger.
exactly.
That's what I didn't get from it. What it just felt like was that he was just tired of them bickering, and he just raised his voice that way he could just tell them to stop and grow up.
Yeah, it came out of nowhere, and it gave me such an appreciation for the voice actors. In that moment alone, I was like, that is what good voice acting is. I just wish it was
Yeah.
in other portions of the game.
Yeah.
And I'm mostly gonna pick on Gladiolus's voice actor because it's true. I don't think there's a way around it. Most of the lines are just him trying to sound manly and less to do with emotion, and that's not what voice acting is. Voice acting isn't putting on a voice. It's all about emotion. Whether or not there's a adjustment that you have to make to your voice to make it sound believable to that character is, a completely different matter.
Yeah. You know what? I think I would like to see Jorgen von Strangle's voice just being replaced with Gladio's voice.
Yeah, but then that would make
muscles.
that would make Gladiolus a caricature. And even though that was kind of what we were doing at the beginning, I don't think it's entirely necessary.
Yeah. Okay, so the next question is
Oh yeah, we were on that one forever.
yeah. No, I kind of knew that it was going to be a long one.
Yeah, I
But,
knew that this is going to be a very long live stream.
Yeah. Okay, so between the girls of Final Fantasy 15, which one is your favorite?
Man, I saw Luna Freya and I had no idea who she was. I was just like, "Oh, see? That's the girl who is my type." And you were like, "Nah, I prefer that other chick." I don't know who it was you were talking about, but I was like, I don't know. I prefer this girl. Like, she's beautiful, she's elegant looking. And then there's
I preferred
Iris. And then there's
preferred
Iris.
Armia. Yeah.
Yeah, we all know you like Arnea.
Oh yeah.
And you
Girlfriend material right there. Mm-hmm.
I think it was Cindy we were talking about. I was like, I'm not really a big fan of Cindy. I don't really I don't
like-
really go for her type, but Luna Freya or Iris, those are more along my types.
I made the biggest joke about it for the fact that if you actually get good with Cindy,
Yeah?
you get free car service.
Really?
Because she's a mechanic. She's a mechanic. So basically, if your car breaks down and you're in love with her, and if you're boyfriend girlfriend, there's a pretty big chance that she'll be able to fix it for you.
But what about Prompto?
But yeah, the girl that I like in Final Fantasy 15 is actually Aranea. Or Aranea?
Aranea, yeah. That's
Yeah,
the way they
yeah.
pronounce it, so that's the way I've learned to pronounce it because it sounds the simplest.
Yeah. I like her for the fact that she comes off as this like really seductive
Oh yeah.
woman at
But
first.
without trying to be.
Yeah, without trying to be, she was like really seductive, like to Nox, and it's like, wow, that is like really messed up.
She calls him pretty
later
boy.
on- yeah, later on you figure out that she's a mercenary, and that's not really her character at first.
Right,
And
she
it's
she becomes more of a person. She owns
Yeah, and I was like, wow, that is actually. I actually liked her from there on because it was just really good.
Well, that's
character.
what made Prompto like her too. Prompto was like,
Yeah,
wow, she actually really wants to leave the Empire. What if that's all she wanted to do the whole time? And and he's like
Well, then-
contemplating her being a good guy, and he's like, oh man, now I really like her.
yeah, but the thing is that she's a mercenary at heart. So basically, she will go to the best.
She'll go to the highest
Seller.
bidder.
Yeah. And to be honest, I mean, I still like her for that. I mean,
Well,
she
'cause
has
why
her
not?
goals. She has her goals.
She has her dreams and aspirations. That's enough for me.
Yeah, exactly. And then her personality is actually not that bad. I mean, later in the story, you actually start to find out that she actually cares about the people she's around, and and she also cares about the citizens of the people that are being attacked by the demons. She actually cared about it. She actually felt the emotion from her when she talks about it, and that was actually pretty cool.
You talk a pretty good game about looks, but I think you're not as shallow a man as you would like to make me believe you are. I thought it was just because she had a rack. No, but okay, so which character do you wish you better understood, and why?
Which character I wish I better understood?
Yeah. Is there a specific character that you kind of really wish that had better exploration?
Kind of the whole Umbra thing. How Umbra is actually a witch that will send you back in time. I mean, they could have really explored on that part.
Yeah,
add more
they could have
story to
really
it.
explained how the heck that happens.
Yeah, like how the heck does that? I mean, that doesn't happen very often. So that's something I would like to understand more. I mean, it could actually add more story to it behind the lore, and I actually thought that would actually be pretty cool.
Yeah. For me, it would be that Ravis has absolutely no explanation as to why he changes his opinion of Noctis. That bothers the crap out of me. It's just like, I wish I knew, like, he's allowed to, of course, change his opinion of Noctis, but it seemed that he didn't like him, and then it showed that he's okay with him, and he even reveres him as a king. But then Gladiolus mentions that there was apparently some sort of grudge. I wish they explained what the grudge was. They explained how Ravis came to overcome that grudge and why. Because for now, all we have is Ravis appears to be a bad guy. Plot twist, he's not a bad guy. Second plot twist, he becomes a boss anyway.
From what I understand from Ravius.
Ravis?
Yeah, Ravis. Is that was actually
Ravioli?
yeah. Basically, he was actually the brother of Lunafreya.
Oh, yeah. He's Lunafreya's brother.
So, from what I understand is that he knew that he was the true king, but I think what he wanted was to push him more towards it. Because like if you have like a different perspective on things, you can actually see the flaws with certain people. And then I think what he was trying to do is actually use those flaws to push him towards the goal that he needs to be.
Well, Ravis has never really interacted with Noctis beforehand, or they have never shown an instance in the past where Ravis and Noctis have been together, unless it's in the movie, which the game should not be relying on to make itself better in terms of storytelling. It needs to be good in its own right. It's just like, but it doesn't explain why he would think that Noctis would have those flaws, you know?
Yeah.
Like, if there was at least you rush in without thinking, and he's like trying to test your power, and that would have been a really cool boss fight too. He'd have been like, do you think you're as good as you think you are? I don't think you are. And then you like fight him for a while, and the moment Noctis hits danger zone or something, he'll comment on your skills, or if you manage to surprise Ravis, he'll comment on your skills a different way. You know, you could get two different cutscenes depending on how well you fare against him, but you won't actually defeat him because he's terrifyingly powerful.
Yeah. I actually believe that there should have been more to it for him. I mean, like I said, like the story between between that time and then between chapter 9, there's nothing really there. And to be honest, this could explain further some things, but they chose not to do it, and that's what makes me angry about it.
Yeah.
Like, they had all that time just to figure it out, what they want from him, and they just whiffed it. Like, it just went through the bag and just hit the floor.
And there's another character. What about that king dude? The one who turns into a demon who fights Gladiolus and Ignis and then later fights all of us. Like, what's his deal?
I actually haven't seen that part.
Oh, well,
The king actually never showed up on my end. All I had to hear was that he turned to a demon, and that was it. Like,
Oh.
everyone's been turned into a demon inside the Empire.
well, that's pretty bad. Because I was like, what on earth is the deal with this dude? Why is he attacking me? Why does he talk about taking over the throne? Like, what's his deal? Why does he even exist? I mean, he was in the trailer, he looked awfully different, and he was the guy who's supposed to be responsible for stealing my throne, but they kind of nerfed his character. He has no real purpose.
Actually, I thought the whole thing between that king and between Arden was the whole Lord of the Rings skit where the guy was poisoning his mind in order to further his own goal.
Yeah, except you never really see that, so even
Yeah.
if that was what it was, they did not do a very good job of showing that, did they?
No, they didn't. And that's what the whole problem is that there wasn't really any type of explanation. You just kind of had to take the story for what it is, and then that's what we had to run by. So
And I wonder how Gentiana died. Like, it's hinted that Gentiana is dead, but she is also alive? What?
I can actually tell you. I can actually tell you something.
Okay.
Her original body is dead.
Oh, that makes
In
so
fact,
much sense.
if you remember, they were talking about how Shiva died.
Yeah, the
Okay, that's
Galatian's
the reason.
body is causing this area to freeze, right?
Yeah. So basically, she's still alive, but her original body is dead.
Wow.
Her powers still exist. That's why it's still causing the whole blizzard.
I see.
Oh, nice here. Indeed.
Then, yeah.
I mean, and you remember in Final Fantasy 13 where basically it's 2 summons, not
Yeah.
just
Yeah, the Shiva
and then basically
sisters.
they form. Yeah, basically they form Shiva. Those two
Nyx
summons
and
actually.
Styria, or
Yeah.
Styria, however you pronounce
Yeah.
that.
So they mix together and make Shiva. That's what they were trying to get with, I think, with this one, where basically there's actually multiple Shivas, and they all, and when she died, her spirit just just kept creating more Shivas.
There were a
And-
lot of them. The only thing I
Yeah.
could think of is like some other dude will say something like, Noctis is being surrounded by chicks and he's gonna kill the fire dude. Something very basic dude sort of thing to say.
Yeah.
I don't know, what do they call that? Being a basic bro. Being a frat boy is what I call it, but that would be an insult to actual fraternity members or members of a fraternity that focus on important things and not just partying.
Well, from here on out, like anyone that's a frat boy. Well, I'm not going to get into a political discussion. No.
Yeah, we're not gonna get into a
That's-
political discussion
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. No. I'm going to say that for another time, or probably never, because
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
I don't want to be labeled something that I'm not. So.
right.
Okay. So. What are your thoughts on the battle system?
The battle system is so addicting. I absolutely love the battle system, But I hate how if you're not paying attention, you can get hit like a couple of times and then suddenly be put in this danger mode for no reason at all. Like, what the deal? What's that all about? I don't know why I'm suddenly dying. Yeah, like, what was that?
My favorite about the battles, I mean, you know, I have my gripes with it, you know, because I kind of wanted the original Kingdom Hearts type of battle system that they were going to be implementing.
Yeah.
But my thoughts on it, it's actually pretty well done. I mean, I actually have no complaints about it. The switching between weapons is actually very smooth, and I actually do like that. And the whole overpowered magic, you don't see that very often. In fact, like they have some games actually have problems with balancing the whole magic versus range versus, you know, straight up melee. And they actually outdone what magic is actually supposed to do. Magic is supposed to be overpowered.
Yeah.
But when you're using magic, you become squishy for the fact that it takes time for you to cast magic.
Yeah,
And-
that was my only real complaint. Like, if you didn't know how to make the magic overpowered, then the cooldown makes no sense. But if you are really good at magic, of course it makes sense to have the cooldown. It's just,
Yeah.
I wish it didn't become so reliant on using up items so that you had more than 3 casts. Because when you use all your elements to make this overpowered spell, you get like 1 good use out of it.
Well, I actually, when you level up, you can actually level up your magic to where you can actually get more out of it. So you
Yeah,
can actually be sitting
I
there
actually
for about,
noticed
like,
that.
Yeah, because I actually maxed that out. So now if I make a really powerful spell, I can actually cast about like 5 to 10 of them. So, I mean, when you level up and increase your magic skills, you become more powerful in that certain aspect.
The one thing I wish I knew is what triggers a summon.
Yeah, that wasn't really explained very well, and like, I like the fact that, you know, in Kingdom Hearts you're able to summon them, and then you're able to fight with them. Same with Final Fantasy 12, you can summon it. The party members, the other party members get removed for your summon, and then you're fighting with your summon. You know, that type of thing. That was actually pretty cool. Same with Final Fantasy 11. It was basically the same thing with Final Fantasy 12. You actually summon your monster, it becomes a pet for you, and then you're using the, you know, pet skills and using their skills to do damage to monsters. And that was actually what I like about it. But this one, it's just, it's really random, and I don't like that. I really don't.
In some instances, it's kind of cool because then you can't exactly abuse it. But I still want to know.
Oh, I've abused it all right. I abused it.
You abused the summons in Final Fantasy 15?
Yeah, there's actually a dungeon that I was doing in order to get one of the royal arms, and basically you fall down, and then there's a whole bunch of enemies, and there were over my level, because at this time I was still at level 50. I beat the game around 50 to 60. So at that time they were at like level 70 to 80, and you know, they kept on knocking me down. My party members all died. I didn't have many Phoenix downs because because when you drop down, you constantly have to keep on fighting them, because you just keep on constantly dropping down to unlock the area, to unlock the next area. And basically when your HP gets down that low, you can just keep on summoning the lightning guy.
Ruma,
Yeah.
Ramu, Ramen.
Ramen.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's just call him
Lord Ramen.
Yeah. and basically you can just spam it. That's exactly what I did, and it killed everyone in the room. And I was actually okay. Well, then I'll just keep on doing that for the next 5 times, and that's exactly what happened.
Well, I can never guarantee myself that he'll pop up, because I'll be close to dying, and it's like, all right, where's the God intervention?
Yeah,
And sometimes they'll pop up when I have full health and I'm just taking too long to kill something. Oh,
Yeah.
you're having a hard time whittling down its HP, but everybody in your party is not dying? I'll show up anyway.
Yeah, it was just strange.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I really don't. They could have done a better job with it. They really could. But I just didn't like it. How
Okay.
it would be like really random.
What's the next question?
What was your favorite thing you didn't know about the game? I think
Oh, we already answered that
this
one. Yeah.
Okay. Do you plan on playing any of the DLC?
Could use a break.
I looked at gameplay for episode Prompto because since Prompto is the character I want to know the most about, with him just disappearing and then suddenly winding up in that place where he was chained up, I kind of want to know what happened, and I kind of want to know about his storyline where he's just like, oh, by the way, I'm an MT.
Magitech engine.
Yeah.
Okay, that came out of nowhere, and then they were like, oh, all right, let's just breeze over that and just forget that he said that. Yeah, let's just not even acknowledge that's a thing. Oh, okay. It just,
Yeah, and how he has the keys to the castle.
yeah, he's basically like, I have a barcode on my arm that all MTs have, and I can magically unlock this thing. It's so convenient that I happen to be an MT, but, like, I think I was put here for a reason, which is because I have the barcode that unlocks things, so technically it's not really a Deus Ex Machina thing, but yeah, I'm gonna mention that I'm an MT, and we're not gonna make a big deal about it. Okay.
Yeah.
I wish that they made a bigger deal about it. They could have been like, Prompto, how long have you known? Or, Prompto, really? Wow. But wow.
At
You
least
know,
give
like,
it
they
a
could have been
second
a little
thought.
more, they could have been a little more surprised about it. Gladiolus
Yeah.
says absolutely nothing. Ignis says absolutely nothing. Noctis is like, okay.
Well,
And then,
I can
and then when
understand
Prompto's
Ignis-
like, and then when Prompto's is like, I was just worried that if I told you guys, you wouldn't like me anymore. Then they were like super sweet, and they were like, whatever, man. You don't care about where you came from, and neither do we. Like, that was a good moment, but I don't feel like it was set up properly. It should have been set up by.
That awkward silence was just like they were gonna be like some racist type of thing to MTs, and then it's like he mentions it again, and it's like, oh yeah, it's like the sweetest thing ever.
Yeah, but it's
It's
just like,
what?
it's so weird because even the silence of them not talking to him about the whole "hey, I'm an MT" thing, it's not awkward enough. It's just, it's awkward, but it's not tense. It's not tense. It's just, it's story awkward. It's like,
You mean it's awkward, but it's not the right type of awkwardness.
yeah, it's awkward, but it's not tense. It's story awkward, but it's not. I'm being overly picky about this, I know, but let's think about it. If you were something that, okay, let's just be real here. The MTs are all these robots and stuff that keep killing me. Prompto happens to be one of them. He's human, and he's likable, and he's lovable, and he knows this. Yeah, I mean, he doesn't know that he's likable and lovable, but he acts likable and lovable because he wants people to like him.
Yeah.
But he knows that he's an MT, and he's known for a very long time. He said that I've known since before we started our journey. Like, wow, that's a lot to take in. But Noctis over here is a moron, and like, they didn't write him correctly, I think. They should have given him something in character to to say, to give me more story. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
Noctis asked enough questions. It should have been like, Prompto, are you serious? Are you really telling me that you're an MT? Wow. You know, and when Prompto's like, did you really miss me? Were you really coming to find me? Like, I wish Noctis was like, well, of course we came to find you. Why are you asking me all of a sudden? That should have been the question. Why all of a sudden are you mentioning this now? Like, why? I want to know why you're upset, Prompto. I want to know. But Noctis doesn't tell the audience that he wants to know, and that bothers me. Noctis should want to know why Prompto is upset. Otherwise, it feels like they're just dismissing Prompto's story. That's what it is that bothers me. He's like, hey, I'm an MT and I'm upset. And no one bothers to ask why he's upset about that. So Prompto, after this weird silence, has to say, I'm worried about you guys not liking me anymore. They should have been more responsive. They should have been like, oh, well, that sucks, dude. But no, they didn't. I'm going to rant a little bit. So that's why I want to do Prompto's story. I don't really care about Gladiolus' story. Like, okay.
I can guess Ignis for the fact that he's more polite. So it's like he probably would have, you know, he would probably be more accepting and probably would not care if he was in, you know, a MT. He probably wouldn't have cared. In fact, he probably would have said something about, we don't care if you're an MT because you're still one of us.
Yeah, and I mean, they got to that point, and that was very, very well written. It's just, getting to that point was like pulling teeth. And even though it only took a couple of minutes, it's just like 2 minutes means a lot when you don't have very many scripted moments for these guys to bond, and their bonding is what makes the story half of what it is. So it bothers me that this is what we're stuck with.
Yeah.
And I don't mean stuck with as in a terrible kind of way. I just mean it's the hand we've been dealt, and we have to kind of get past it, grit our teeth, and move on. So the gameplay looks really fun though, so I feel like I am willing to give Episode Prompto a try, even though I feel like I shouldn't have to pay for it. It should have been in the game itself.
And
my
to be honest,
personal opinion.
This will actually go into the next question. What is your major criticism of the game?
Okay.
Mine is for the fact that you have to pay DLC in order to get the story.
The background story. It sucks.
It's like it should have been there in the first place. Why are you siphoning this off when it should have been there in the first place? It makes no freaking sense.
Yeah. I'm gonna go traverse through.
We're here complaining for the fact that between chapter 1 and chapter 9, there is not enough story.
With the exception of chapter 4.
Yeah. But it's like, why are we going to be paying for something like this? Like, why are we having to pay to just get the story that we actually want to get? And it's like, I don't understand it. Why? Why are you guys doing this to the fan base? And just why? Why even do it? So
I'm gonna launch my biggest criticism, and this is probably gonna be the longest portion of this discussion. And since it's question discussion point number 14, I think it's the most appropriate to save for last because of how lengthy it is. My biggest issue, my biggest beef with Final Fantasy 15, despite the fact that I'm still playing it for the heck of it, my biggest problem with Final Fantasy 15 is that there is this looming storyline that doesn't make its presence known until later in the game. They just give you the open world at the get-go, and they don't find really neat ways to truly incorporate the main storyline into the exploration of the open world. I don't think having an open world should be an excuse for a lack of story. And we talked about it before, and this will be the first time that it'll appear on YouTube. But my biggest pet peeve was that Noctis's storyline with collecting the royal arms didn't have enough story in the main dungeons. Like, there are optional ones. There are royal arms that you don't have to get to finish the story. So, there are exceptions to this rule, and I think that they're a fine example of what could have happened with all the other royal arms quests. And, you know, for all the side quests, you know, they can do what they've been doing, which is the characters go in, they make a comment on the scenery and stuff, and if there's a boss in that dungeon, they can make off comments about the boss. But for me, the biggest issue is that's all it is, except for the dungeon in Chapter 10 when Ignis loses his eyesight.
Yeah.
And the biggest problem for me is that this should have been a mainstay from the get-go. The wonderful thing about Chapter 10 is even though you're going through this dungeon, they have moments in the dungeon where they focus on the story, which is Ignis has lost his eyesight. Gladiolus gets mad at you if you move too fast. Ignis doesn't want to feel like he's a burden, but he feels like he should always be there to fight. During the boss fight, Ignis actually overcomes his blindness by using his other senses to kill the Malboro. Ignis is the story of that dungeon. Ignis is... That's how we, as the four characters, it focused on the character development. It focused on how Prompto didn't want to get in the middle of things. It focused on how Gladiolus didn't want to look at Noctis in the face. He even chose a different seat. He moved his seat on purpose so that he wouldn't have to be closer to Noctis. Ignis couldn't cook. They even showed how really sad the meal choice was. You had to choose this pre-packaged can of food that was cold and ugly. And all the off comments they made were about Ignis's eyesight, or how Noctis was moving too fast, or how Gladiolus and Noctis were fighting. Like, every moment in that dungeon was plot point. And it totally upsets me.
This looks awesome. Dude,
It totally
Because
upsets me that they haven't done that
I can recreate this.
with the other ones.
with the other dungeons, because like the first dungeon, you go in, it's not that difficult, he gets the sword, Core talks about something to do with the family, and then they kind of explain afterwards that, yeah, Noctis has to go get the royal arms. And then anytime they require you to go get a royal arm, like the waterfall, like Talcott says, hey, there's a royal arm that's in a waterfall. They're like, okay, let's go to the waterfall. You have to do the waterfall dungeon in order to progress with the game.
Yeah, the thing was that they were saying like it was an old legend that there was an old warrior that slept in the cave or something like that.
Right. So that might be a bit difficult to build a story around, but it was like, okay, you have to do this dungeon in order to progress the game. So they should have put more story elements inside that dungeon. They should have put more scripted bonding events where the characters aren't just doing their usual banter, but they're actually talking about something specific to what's currently happening. There should have been more about that legend of the sleeping man. There should have been a connection to Noctis's family, so that I could feel closer to what Noctis is trying to accomplish in collecting the royal arms. To me, it's just a really, really super long side quest that's mandatory. And it's just kind of like, okay, here's another dungeon. You know?
Yep.
But with Chapter 4, I'm gonna do a contrast between getting Rama and getting the Titan. The Titan is a mandatory, you gotta talk to the Big Six and get them to join you. With Rama, he's also a mandatory. You gotta go convince the Big Six to join you. Well, the difference between Rama and the Titan is that the Titan was hinted at in Chapter 3 with cutscenes, and then Noctis is like, hey, I gotta probably go talk to this guy. And that was what the entire Chapter 4 was about. Everybody's motivation was to go to the Titan and talk to him. And then when you get to the Titan and you talk to him, things happen. Stuff explodes. The characters develop. Gladiolus has a really forced, angry conversation with Noctis. You know, like, it's all story-based. There's a bonding moment between Gladiolus and Noctis. Gladiolus and Noctis do an amazing fight sequence against the Titan. It was super cool. So, you know, but Rama was like, you don't have your cars, we want you to try to use chocobos, and we encourage you to use chocobos. Just kind of go run around the map and touch a tree. Nothing happens on the way to the tree. The only cutscenes you get are when you touch the tree. And while that's more storytelling than they normally give you, it's too passive for me. There's nothing that happens on the way, and I kind of wish that was the case, that I could do more story on the way. Because when you do other side quests, they usually try to focus on just that side quest. Like, I feel like it was scripted so that you could do a main quest and a side quest at the same time, but I'm not really certain how successful that would actually be. Like, oh, I just did a couple side quests. Now I'll go touch a tree. Learn about my ancestry. It just... It was... There are 2 summons that you get that you don't have to fight, with the exception of the last one you get, but... You know, you get Rama without fighting him. You get Shiva without fighting her. But Shiva is more story-oriented than Rama. Rama is just kind of, he's just kind of there, you know?
Yeah. You gotta also remember Bahamut, which you automatically get after waking up.
But that's a completely different matter, because the story focus isn't collecting Bahamut. In fact, the story focus is that all the 3 of the Big Six are dead. So they're like, oh, they mention the Glacian's corpse, but they're not really focused on getting the Glacian's power. He just gets it, but it turns out to be Gentiana who's been watching you the whole time. So it's kind of fine. Yeah. It's acceptable. It's like, oh, well, that's a nice surprise.
Yeah.
So, you know, I prefer nice surprises over, okay, here's another fetch quest, here's another travel quest, gonna go touch a tree.
Yeah.
So, I guess that's my big beef with storytelling so far.
Yeah, like, yeah, like we stated, like, it's the story, and that's our biggest criticism.
Yeah,
there's not enough of it.
It's the way it's presented. I'm about to use the English language to kind of explain what I'm talking about, and hopefully people who, well, no one's watching. I don't think our live stream is that interesting, but it's better to do a live stream and just have it up here than pre-record it and me suffer through editing it, because I don't really feel like it. Okay, so in the English language, we have 2 types of sentences. We have an active sentence and a passive sentence. And the difference between an active sentence and a passive sentence is the subject. The subject of an active sentence is someone or something that is doing something. A passive sentence, the subject is a thing or a person that an action is being taken upon. So, like, if you were hit by some guy, you are the subject in a passive sentence. You are passively getting hit by this guy. You are allowing the action to happen upon you. Whereas the guy hitting you, he would be the subject of his own sentence because he's the one actually doing the thing. So there's two types of storytelling that happens in this game. There's active storytelling, and then there's passive storytelling. Passive storytelling... actually, let me backtrack a little bit. Let's do the easier one first. Active storytelling is when the story happens in such a way that you can passively sit there and just watch it happen. Like the cutscene with the Leviathan and Lunafreya getting stabbed. All that is being presented to you. You would have to be not looking in order to not know what's going on. Like, everything that's happening that you're digesting is easily digestible. You don't have to think about it. You're just watching it. You're reacting to it. You're feeling it. It's presented in a very dynamic, incredible way that is easy for you, the reader of the story, the digester of the story, whatever. It allows you to digest it very easily. And I think that that's a very good form of storytelling. But then there's passive storytelling, which a lot of other games are really good at. But this one kind of... This one kind of has its flaws. Passive storytelling is where you have to actively seek out elements of the story in order to put everything together. So, like, the little magazines that have the backstory about the Star Scourge and the disease that it has, those are things that you have to actually find in order to fill in the missing information for the story. And I don't think that itself is a good idea, mostly because in a game like this, there's a lot of information that can easily be overlooked. And if you're not actively seeking out the story or given an environment where you can actively seek out the story, you'll miss a lot of stuff. There's a lot of information that will go missing.
Yeah.
So that's a good example of passive storytelling. Another example of somewhat passive storytelling is when you're walking around and you're fighting enemies, but while you're fighting enemies, your teammates are talking about something that's currently happening. Like, oh, Prompto is talking about Aranea and how she's possibly thinking about quitting the Empire in order to become a good person. Or she mentions it herself inside of that dungeon. She mentions that she doesn't really feel like she wants to be part of the Empire anymore. She just kind of wants to do her own thing. But she says it while you're walking around exploring the dungeon. She says it in between battles and stuff. And if you're not paying attention, or if you walk too far away from your party, you'll miss the entire conversation, because the conversation is happening around your teammates. And if you're not always walking the same pace as them, you'll miss a lot of important information. And that's where you have to take full responsibility for how much of the story you're digesting. The game isn't forcing you to learn this, which is the passive storytelling, where you must take the active role in the storytelling. The slightly less passive storytelling, leaning more towards the active storytelling, but to me still feels kind of passive, is when they talk about the story in the car. Yes, Noctis is trapped in this car with these three other guys, and when they're talking about something story-related, you're kind of forced to see it all. You're kind of forced to hear it all, too. But they're so nonchalant about it that, you know, I just kind of fade out. I don't really pay attention to it. And it's not easily digestible to me because it doesn't keep my attention. There's nothing about it that holds my attention very well. And while that's more my fault because my attention span is not faithful to, you know, stuff like this, and it's more faithful to cinematic feeling, I see characters' faces close up, I know what they're feeling sort of thing, you know, it's still my fault for not taking that information in. It's just it doesn't feel dynamic enough for me to care. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. To be honest, it's technically not your fault for the fact that some of the times when they're actually talking in the car just comes at random times,
Right.
and that's the bad thing about it is because that it'll just happen at random,
You're right.
and
It
you
does
wouldn't even
happen at
know.
random, and you have to choose to travel in the car, so it's technically a form of passive storytelling. And
Yeah,
because your mind might be thinking about a current side quest or something else that you're doing, or heading backwards in order to accomplish something, or backtracking to get another item or something, you'll miss it. So I guess you're right. I guess the game hopes that you do enough stuff and that you're actively looking around that you can learn more about the story and fill in the holes. I think there is some merit to allowing the player to actively seek out more story, but if you're forcing them to do that, to put two and two together with the actual cutscenes of the game, there's a problem because they're gonna miss out on a lot if they don't. And that goes back to good storytelling. I would I would really appreciate ways to make the passive storytelling more interesting or easily accessible, or something that, you know, like, I wish my character my teammates were like, "Hey, look at this," or they made a bigger deal about the magazines or something like that. You know,
yeah,
so that I knew that that's something important that I have to look at. You know, it's like no one actually really explains the Star Scourge in any of the cutscenes. They don't even give it a name. They just call it darkness. The darkness is coming, or a random disease,
yeah.
or whatever it is. You know, I don't know
See,
what it is.
see, even I didn't even know that it was called the Star Scourge.
So
I
see,
never knew that.
and now you do because I had to make a big deal about it.
Yeah,
So, you know, it's that kind of part in storytelling where it hurts itself by encouraging you to do all the work. I mean, yeah, that's kind of the point of having the open world, but like I said before, an open world is no excuse for bad storytelling.
yeah. I mean, there could have been things to where doing side quests could open up more of the story to you,
Yeah.
and that's what I actually kind of wanted from the open world. I mean, I'll take like Skyrim for example. Like most of the side quests gives you more story, and it tells you what's going on around around the whole world. You actually get this sense of that the world is actually alive. But with this, it's like you're just going off to to fetch something, and
Yeah.
then they're just gonna talk about like 5 minutes, talk about why they wanted that item, and not about like, oh, did you know that 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 the old king used to have this gem, and they say that every once in a while on a full moon you can actually see the light coming from the gems, or something that gives you more detail of you know something that happens currently within the world, and with that it's like Skyrim is actually one of the well-known games because of how much lore they put into the game, and then how the side quests allows you to learn more about the game, learn more about the whole world that you're living in. And that's why it's so loved, is because with the sense of actually learning the story through the main quest, you're actually learning more about the world through the side quests.
Right. There was a guy who I don't know his name, but he did a fantastic review on this game, and he essentially said that, you know, battling monsters and stuff and grinding has always been a part of Final Fantasy. And he feels that side quests should distract you from the grind, the nature of the grind. Oh my gosh, I can't get words out of my mouth. Said that side quests should distract you from the nature of the grinding so that the grind itself is more fun. But he comments on how the side quests in Final Fantasy 15 they all look the same. So after a while, it becomes too repetitious and it becomes more tedious. So the side quests themselves are no longer distractions, but, you know, tedious things that you don't really feel like doing. And
Yeah.
personally, for me, if that's the way it's gonna be, I'd rather cut out the middleman and just grind the regular old-fashioned ways. Kill monsters.
Yeah, or use the whole experience exploit spell.
Yeah, that too.
Okay, so we're actually coming up to what, the final question?
Yeah, the final question.
In your
Final
opinion, what is
Fantasy
the
15.
best? What is the best aspect of the game?
We've said so many negative things about this game. We need to set it up for success, because it is a good game. I'm post game now, so, you know, if I ever feel bored, I can pick this game up and I can do something random. I can do whatever I want. And to be honest, even if I haven't beat the game yet, I could pick up the game and do whatever I want as early as Chapter 1 or Chapter 2. There are some limitations, but for the most part, the game only prevents you from going places if they feel like you are not prepared to take on that challenge. So I think that's how they balance out their leveling system, with having monsters all over the place. And, you know, there's actual consequences for going out at night, which is high-leveled monsters that you're not ready to fight, which kind of forces you to only travel during the day. But the thing that I'm most impressed about with this game is Ardyn. I wanted so badly to write him off as a character of no consequence. I mean, that is what he even calls himself. I am a man of no consequence. That is his line. He's just a wandering traveler, a man of no consequences, and yet he is the only villain in Final Fantasy history who accomplishes his goal. Because he just wants the royal line to end. Noctis had no children, he died. His father is dead too. Noctis has no other known relatives. By taking his own life in order to kill Ardyn, Ardyn actually technically succeeds in what he wanted to do, which is ending the Lucis line of royalty. He's done it.
Yep.
Mission accomplished. Like, that's crazy. That's hard to believe, but he actually succeeded. And Ardyn is the one character in the entire game who is so mysterious, and you can't ever figure out what he's doing, but it's in a good way. Whereas Ravus is mysterious because of bad storytelling, Ardyn is mysterious because of good storytelling. Ardyn is he is what makes the game good. He is what makes the game, man. Like, the love story between Lunafreya and Noctis, Ardyn's ulterior motive for helping Noctis the entire time. You're wondering, why on earth is this guy helping us? And then he handicaps you, but then still helps you, and you're like, why is he doing this? And then it's so beautiful. It comes out of nowhere. He's like, by the way, I'm a Lucis royalty member. Bet you didn't see that coming, did you? And I'm like, no, I didn't. I did not see that coming. Wow, that's kind of crazy.
I actually thought it was too. I was like, well, that explains a lot.
I mean,
Because in the
yeah.
actual the lore, there was supposed to be a prince that that became the prophecy stated that there would be a prince that will be swayed by darkness, and then and then there will be a prince that would be swayed by light. They didn't know which one Noctis would be, if he would be the true king or if he would be persuaded by darkness. They actually had a prophecy where there was a guy that would be swayed by darkness. They didn't understand it at that point, but actually like listening to it, you can actually get the sense that Noctis is the true king, while Arden is the one that fell to be a king. You know, and that's what I thought about it, and I was like, it makes sense.
And the really sad thing about Arden is that he didn't do it on purpose. He didn't doom himself on purpose. He thought that was how to do it. He thought that was how to solve the problem. And he absorbed this darkness, and after he did, the crystal rejected him and was like, "No, you can't ascend anymore. Sorry, bro. Tough luck. Cool story, though." And then Arden just got mad about it. But in my personal opinion, I feel like Arden had enough time, and people who knew who he was and ostracized him, they age and he doesn't, and they die and, he doesn't. He could have been the Skips of Final Fantasy 15. He could have been that guy who's lived for a really long time, who just knows the answers to everything. He could have still groomed Noctis to be the King of Kings, but in a different way. He could have not made himself the villain. He I don't know. He's basically like the entire plot line of Code Geass, where he plays the villain in order to accomplish his goals. And I don't know. I just feel like that. I just feel like as a character he could have had so much more than he did, but he chose spite and anger, which makes me sad for him.
And I think
but that's why he's such a good character.
Yeah, I think that's why it comes down to good storytelling.
So yeah, I mean, the saving grace of Final Fantasy 15 is it's definitely Arden, and it's definitely Lady Lunafreya. Some people will say that Lunafreya does not get enough screen time and that her character falls flat, but I think quite the opposite. I think that despite her limited screen time and how very little of her we actually see, every moment she proves that she is a strong character. I was completely moved. Like, she was being held at gunpoint by those guys surrounding her while she was sitting in the chair, and all she does is stand up and she moves the gun out of her way and continues walking forward, not even looking at them. She doesn't look at the people pointing guns at her. She just moves it out of the way and continues walking forward with determination. And I was like, that is strength. That is the definition of beauty right there. It's just, she is this beautiful, strong woman who is not going to be easily swayed from her task, which is to set up the Big Six to join the side of the King of Kings. I mean, she proves that she is a strong character every moment she gets, and I feel sad that other people think that her character falls flat, but I do agree. I wish that I did see more of her. I would like an episode Luna, basically. And that's what I voted for when they did the survey. So I really hope that there's an episode Luna in the future, because that would be pretty cool. It would also be really cool to see that super scary ring.
Actually, I would. Well, no one can actually use the ring. Only the King of Kings can use it.
Then I wonder how you, because she does use the trident. The trident.
The trident
is an arms though.
Yeah,
which means that it would drain her HP. I wonder how that would
She
work.
only used it for that one moment.
Huh. Then I wonder how her fighting mechanics would work and all that.
Yeah,
That's
that would be interesting.
That's a brain tease. Is this the dungeon that you can only get to with the flying car?
I have no idea because I can't see your
That is
screen.
correct. I'm so sorry. Is the dungeon called the Rock of Ravato?
No, it's not.
Ah,
It's near there, but it's not. That's not it.
okay.
Yeah, it's near there, but it's not. It's not.
But it's
right
not
there.
there. Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
but you
So-
are actually getting close to another King's Arm.
Cool. So, in your opinion, aside from Luna Freya and Arden, is there anything else that really sells this game?
To be honest, the thing that sold me this game was it was on top of the combat mechanics, but how they expressed the love for each other, the romance is what really saved it for me. I mean, because of all the missing like story and stuff like that, it was just once it starts picking up the whole the romance, that's what got you into actually continuing playing instead of just tossing it to the side to play something else.
Yeah, I really like the bonding between the guys. I thought there would be a little bit more of it than I got, which is why I'm really upset about not having story moments inside of the dungeons, because that could have really helped with showcasing how these guys can bond rather than just doing the random, hey, watch your back, sorry, my hand slipped, that thing.
Time to go.
Yeah, the ending, that final ending was actually that actually made me cry a little bit.
It did not make me cry.
No, I'm talking
was-
about I'm talking about the part where he was accepting his fate while talking to them.
Yeah, that did not make me cry.
And
I
when they were
actually
playing
felt
the whole "Stand by Me." That was actually pretty emotional for me.
I kind of wish I could say the same thing. Because I feel like that's what they were wanting from me, but that's not what they got from
Yeah,
me.
that's exactly what they wanted, and they got it from me because he was basically saying that they would be friends even after, you know, he loved spending time with them. That's what the whole thing was supposed to be about. It was about them, spending time with each other until the end, and that's how it was supposed to be. And while they were playing, and he was just saying, he was basically saying that he loved them as his own like brothers type of thing. And
Yeah.
that's what made me, feel emotional about it, because he accepted his death, but he got his final say. He is the one that, he did it to save everyone, including his friends, and not just saving the world. He did it because he had to, and that's what pushed that story, that narrative, that it was. That's why I think that that was the best part about the game, was that he knew that he was gonna die, and he still chose to fight Arden. That is actually pretty. That is like a strong moment right there. And then that to me is like one of those things where basically the hero is. It's like one of those things that the hero is not gonna. Who knows if he's gonna live or die, but knowing the fact that he might die in order to save his friends and save everyone that he loves is what sells the whole story to me.
Yeah, and it gave me the happy ending I always wanted. which is for him to be reunited. So I mean, it perpetuated the love story for me. So I was
Yeah,
I was very happy about that.
yeah. I got, like I said, I had like mixed emotions about the whole ending because they played it off as like, you know, he sacrifices himself for his friends and for his loved ones, and then after that he got reunited with the woman that he was supposed to marry, his actual betrothed, and it was actually not that bad. I actually liked the ending of it.
That was a
And then,
decent ending. That was the best ending I
yeah,
could have ever hoped for.
and what I liked about it was that the picture that you chose, depending on what you pick, was actually what was left behind of the chair.
Yeah.
Because when as soon as he as soon as he basically what was supposed to happen is that Gladio, Pronto, and Ignis is supposed to go into the throne room, and actually they're supposed to see the picture of them all together, and that is the reason why I kept that first picture that Pronto took, or not Pronto, but
Cindy?
Sydney, yeah, with the car, and that's what also played my emotions as well.
For me, it was all about the romance, 100%. I picked. I was actually, I was upset because I wanted to choose a picture that I took. I wanted to choose Luna Freya's wedding dress because, you know, it was, to me, it was about Noctis being reunited with Luna Freya, because you were like, you're gonna see her again, and I'm like, well, he's gonna die. Why would he want to take a photo with him, if not for the sole reason of knowing that he's gonna see Luna after he dies, and they share that picture together, or knowing that he dies, he needs one last thing to think about to give him that extra boost. And as much as I love the guys, it was all about Luna. So.
Yeah.
There was
For me, it was
there was no other picture I could choose except for the one with him and Umbra. So I picked that one because that was the closest I was going to get to the emotion that I wanted to capture. And I've heard that if you pick the right picture, Luna will actually look at the photo and she will cry. Which is something really cool to have learned after beating the game. So now I'm going to see if I can go back and figure out what picture that is.
Yeah.
I bet if I showed her her wedding dress, that would have been it. She'd have been like, I'm so excited for us to get married, but here we are, married at last. I don't know, that's just my thoughts.
Yeah. Me, I'm not for sure what picture it is. But that actually, I mean, I actually like the fact that that group photo with the lighthouse before you go into to the whole Altisha.
Oh, that one, yeah.
Yeah, that one is actually that one it was the thing that I picked first, and then the second one was the one with the regalia.
Well, let me show you let me show the audience, not necessarily you.
Yeah. My third one was the me with my chocobo. Because I actually had the chocobo picture with Noctis and the chocobo.
This is a great photo. Just putting that out there for people to see. Okay. And oh my gosh, that's our Adamantoys. But yeah,
Okay,
this is
I'm
the
actually
photo. Okay.
Actually, I'm gonna turn on my. I'm gonna go ahead and get on my Google thing and see if I can get to it.
Okay.
Hold on 1 second. Oh nope, that's
Okay. Technical difficulties, people who may be watching this in the future who are not watching it now. Whoa.
All right, hold on.
Okay.
Okay. I'm at the. Oh, okay. That's the picture. Picture you chose.
No, no, that's not the picture I chose. But I took this picture and I was like, that's perfect. I don't know what's going on, but it's the best.
Yeah.
Look at that thing. That's the picture I took of the Adamantoise when I first saw it. I was like, even though we're running from it, let me take a picture of it. I'll come back and kill it later. And that's it in the distance. And this is the picture of her wedding dress that I took because I found it. And I saw her photo next to it, and I'm like, oh, this is beautiful. I want to capture it. So I took a photo of it. But I was upset because I couldn't pick my photos. I had to pick Prompto's. And Prompto never took a pic. Prompto never ended up taking a picture of it. I was the only one who did.
Yeah.
So the oh wait. Do you not see it?
Oh, them being on the ground,
Passed out
being
drunk.
knocked out. Yeah. It's like put on a caption saying, "Last night drinking."
And this is it. This is the picture I chose. Because I think that's the only one I had that had anything to do with
with Luna.
Luna and Noctis's relationship, which made me very sad.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think that I think the picture is supposed to what plays your emotion as well into the story to actually get one of those good endings.
Yeah.
So you actually had to put the magic tech suit on Gladio.
Yep. Just had to.
It suits him very well.
It suits him well. Kidding. This is always going to be my favorite photo, though. It just will. There will not be a better photo.
Okay, yeah, that was actually pretty funny.
I mean, there might be some others, like especially the one with Gladios and Noctis in the dark.
I probably have some pretty good ones too, but I would have to turn on my Xbox and switch it over and all that other stuff.
Prompto and Aranea taking a selfie. That's another one of my favorites from Prompto.
Yeah, I actually like that one.
Let's see. Took a picture of her giving me that Moogle doll. And then here's another one. Oh wait, no, that's me, not Gladio. And let's see. Yeah, this is the one that you picked, right? That's actually a good photo to pick.
Yep, that's the one. But then the other one was the one with the regalia. The very first picture that Cindy took.
And these guys. I wish I had a tight-knit close of friends. Okay. So, even though it's not part of our 15 questions, which one of the four guys do you think you would be a more close fit to?
To be honest, it would have to be Noctix.
Noctis?
Yeah.
I see myself as Noctis in personality, but Mostly my disposition. I'm constantly moody and grumpy, but I like Prompto enough that I wish I could emulate him. So you can be Noctis, I'll be
Yeah.
Prompto. We'll do tabletop RPGs together, and that's gonna be our dynamic. uh, okay.
Yeah, once you get Prompto up to like the high level with the photography, you get like really good shots in battle.
That's cool. He's not too far away from getting a level 10. He's on level 9 right now.
Yeah. But like you saw how dramatically it changed, right? Like you get like really awesome shots
Yeah,
while
some really
fighting.
awesome shots, and I'm never absolutely certain which ones are just story related or just because he happened to take them. I'll never know. But it looks like we've gone through the entire list of things that we wanted to talk about. Are there any last things that you want to mention before we wind this down?
Yeah, I would actually like to say something about the game. It's
Okay.
actually not that bad. Like with all the flaws it
With all the
has,
flaws.
yeah, with all the negative criticism that we actually, you know, actually talked about, it's actually not that bad. I mean, uh, I would not mind spending the money again just to play this game. Like if I were to ever, lost my account, I would actually spend the money just to play this game again because it was actually that good with the story. I mean, I mean, from chapter 9 and forward, the story was just so compelling. It was really good.
Yeah. Uh,
And to be honest, I think it's worth it. I mean, and
I,
then like you get like these super dungeons at the end of the game, and that's that gives you that whole in-game content that a lot of people wish for. So
I absolutely enjoy this game. I think the thing that kept me going was that I wanted to learn more about the fighting system. I wanted to learn more about how the battle system worked because even though I was getting sick and tired of always getting two-shot by enemies or you know, ganged up on by different enemies, I was still always willing to keep trying the guarding and the parrying and getting better at the battle system and learning ways to not have to guard all the time and still win or rely on
yeah,
the OP magic. And while I still think you have to be a little bit over leveled to not be entirely competent in what you're doing to win,
yeah,
I think that the battle system is just it's fantastic. It's amazing. It's superior to Final Fantasy 13-3 in my personal opinion because 13-3 uses a lot of these mechanics, but it did that whole paradigm shifting thing, and I just wasn't really a big fan of it. But this is good. I still wish for the ability to feel my own combos and be able to hit the button more than just hold it. But
yeah.
for the most part, I like what it is. I wouldn't really make any changes to it aside from that. I would
There's
change the enemies being able to one shot you though. That's a bit dumb,
yeah.
especially
There is
on.
something I would want to change.
Okay, what?
It would have to be the whole the armature and the whole Royal Arms thing.
Yeah, that I
Picking up
kind
your
of just
HP.
I'm only just now using them and barely. If I start dripping in
Yeah,
health, I go back to the ring and just start absorbing HP as fast as I can.
because when I first played it back in when it first released, because I pre-ordered the game,
A whole herd.
you didn't actually have to worry about your HP for the fact that the ring prevented your HP from dropping.
Yeah, it does not do that.
Yeah, now it's like your HP still drops while you're attacking, but it doesn't drop as much. I mean, they could have made it to where, you know, the ring was still, if you still had it equipped, you know, it doesn't actually, you know,
Now,
drop your HP.
granted, there are lots of equipment that you could utilize to increase your HP regeneration so that you regenerate like 600 HP per second, I think. So, there are ways to get around the Royal Arms absorbing your HP. It's just they're not very well known methods unless you're on the internet. If you're like me and you want to avoid as much internet as possible when you're experiencing a game for the first time, you're not really gonna know.
Yeah.
And of course, that's why I like having an online community with a game, because people are always willing to tell you really neat things about it. And there, you know, this is one of those games where there's lots of stuff hidden inside of it that people can be like, "Hey, did you know that you can gain levels as early as Chapter 1 with the Cactuar?" And I'm just like, "Wow, really? That's cool. Cactuars are actually still in this game. Who knew?"
Yeah, they're very rare though.
Yeah. But it's always fun to see what people think of, and you know, their ways of playing the game and their ways of, you know, doing things and sharing that
yeah.
information with the community.
Actually, I want to change my the whole thing about the whole what would I change in the game?
Yeah, okay.
What I would change is add more enemies.
Add more different
Like,
varieties of enemies.
no, not just varieties of enemies, just because it feels like it's really empty when you're going from one place to another until
Oh.
you stumble upon a group of enemies, and then like after that, then you know it's constantly being filled with, you know, the Imperial soldiers just being dropped from the sky.
Oh my gosh,
More...
I want to stop that, man. They just come every second. Drove me
Yeah,
nuts.
and that's the problem. They're it's just filler for what's really an empty world, and that's what I don't like about it. When I see, because I played Xenoblade, and everything was filled with monsters, the aliens. You actually had high level aliens that if you wanted to pick a fight with, they could actually stomp you to death. Because they were like level 90 and you were like level 5. But the whole thing about it was is that it filled the world with livable animals. Like you can actually see them living and fighting each other, trying to survive in this world, and that's what made it feel alive to me. This, it's like, oh, you just stumble upon a group of saber dogs or whatever they're called, and you know, you take them out, and then you got like this vast openness with no any other, you know, animal or anything else except for Imperials just jumping from the sky and randomly attacking you, and it happens like every like several seconds.
I would rather focus on the animals than Imperials above us. I see them. Yeah.
So, y'all keeping at it?
Yeah,
But-
and that's one of the biggest things about the game for me is that
Well,
if you're trying to make an open world, make it, you know,
y'all just leave it to
alive,
me.
more livable. Believe that
This
it's actually,
goes
you know,
there.
a livable world, not just like have like where it's like, you know, you just have a group of enemies that just spawn every so often.
Good as new.
I mean, that's not how you actually do an open world.
Well, that criticism aside, we were trying to end it with a positive note.
Howdy.
But
So-
either way, I mean, the game is actually still good. I would still play it.
Yeah. I say that the final statement for this review, holy crap, I have a monster truck.
After all, limits were only made to be broken.
Sweet. Okay, well, I guess the final statement for this review is that if you can get past the grindy nature of the first 3 chapters, if you can absolutely hold your attention to what's happening around you, and you can seek out story where you can, and
Cindy,
oops,
you have seriously outdone yourself.
Yeah, never thought I'd see the day.
sorry.
And yet, here we are. Well, what are we waiting for? Let's take your
Shut up,
What's
guys! Sorry. If you can get past the first 3 chapters and endure the nature of it and then get used to it, enjoy chapter 4 for what it is and accept that that is the beginning of the rest of the storyline, and understand that chapters 9 through the end are not going to be as open world as it used to be, and and you take all that criticism that we just threw out there, you will get a very, very beautiful game. Might not have been the story it was originally conceived to be, but it is a story worth enjoying, a story worth digesting. It is worth it. So I think that even though I had nothing but negative things to say about it when I first began, I think I'll take back a little bit of it due to just how incredible the story was. I wish that other things complemented it just as well, but I mean, it's a really fun game. You know, if you want to go out and do a lot of mindless stuff and still enjoy the game for what it is, I think this game really suits people who were angry at Final Fantasy 13 for not being open world. So I think this suits those kind of players, people who are used to Skyrim. Maybe other Final Fantasy players who are more used to a more linear approach might be off-put by it a bit. But I think in the end, the story makes up for any other negative aspect, and if you can get over a couple rough patches here and there, it's worth it.
Road behind.
Born ready.
It really is. I mean, I knew full well what I was getting into, you know, and I actually thought that it was actually enjoyable. Just some a couple of gripes now and then, but come on, let's be honest. Not every game is perfect.
And this one is
So
no
it's-
exception.
Yeah, this one's no exception either. And I've had my share of playing video games and mainly RPGs. I know a good game when I see it, and this is actually it's an enjoyable game. If you
What?
like this type of game, you will actually enjoy it more often than anything.
What the heck? Oh. Okay, that was weird. I'm gonna run over some... Oh, roadkill! Oh, that's the best! You can kill creatures by running them over. The Regalia is fighting for me. My finesse
Wow.
was a D? Come on, man. That was at least an A minus. That was the best. Oh my gosh. Okay, guys. Seriously, though, in addition to what we already just said, if you get the Regalia D, this is the best thing on earth. Running over monsters.
Actually, I like the Regalia F. Just being able to fly it's just really perfect.
Yeah, but the off-road vehicle means that you don't have to park a million miles away from where you're trying to go.
Yeah, that is true.
Ah, this would have made so much of the traveling that much easier. I think I can actually enjoy this open world even more. Woo! I'm gonna run over some enemies. Yeah! Woo!
And I actually do like some of the callbacks from the old Final Fantasy games with the music that they put in. Like the nostalgia of the old music. That was actually pretty cool.
I'm just being stupid trying to run over monsters.
Alright. Anyways, I'm actually gonna go use the bathroom and I'll be right back.
Well, actually, let's just wind this down and say thank you very much. because that was a lot. This is a 2-hour review. We have been talking about this game for the past 2 hours, and hopefully the gameplay that I've been doing has been satisfactory enough to not completely bore you guys to death. But for anyone who had been watching here and there, thank you. For anyone that is watching this in the future, thank you. If you've made it all the way through from beginning to end, and you've enjoyed listening to our criticisms and stuff, thank you so much, because this is a lot to take in. So I really appreciate that kind of effort.
I actually would like to ask you something.
Yeah.
Out of 5 stars, what would you rate it?
What would I rate Final Fantasy out of stars?
Yeah, Final Fantasy. Yeah, out of stars. Out of 5 stars.
What's the max?
5. 5
5?
stars is the max. Yeah.
Okay. So I'd have to dock a couple points for how it starts, because most people have a so many chapters rule, and if it doesn't survive or hold their attention for the first couple chapters, they stop playing it. And I was almost about to stop playing it, but then I convinced myself to play chapter 4, and it was actually after the patch was released. So if I had continued playing before the patch was released, I might have a completely different opinion of the game entirely. So I say the fairest star value that I can give this game is 3.5 stars. I would say that if I were to rate it based on playability, replayability, accessibility, and visuals and storyline, they would all have different numbers, and some of them would be lower than others, and others would be incredibly high. But since I have to factor all that together, I would say 3.5 is probably the fairest. It's the fairest judgment I can make for it. And we're gonna take all those criticisms in mind, as well as the positive things. So even though 3.5 seems pretty low, that's almost 4 stars. So
actually, since that is your opinion, mine is actually 4 stars.
So yeah, I mean that's just my spin on it. I don't want to say it's average, because average is probably 3. Well, 3 is passable. Average might be 4. So yeah, I might bump it up to 4 stars. How about that?
Yeah, the reason why I say 4 stars for me is because my own experience in the game, and that's the only thing that you can actually hope for, is that you actually had your own experience with the game, how you like it. To me, I actually like the game. It's not bad. It's actually pretty enjoyable, and that's why I rate it that way, is because of my own personal experience with the whole magic system being overpowered. That was actually pretty fun, like being able to just like go into a group of enemies and just offcast one thing, and then just have multiple things happen at once, and just instantly killing everything in sight. That was really perfect for me, and I actually like overpowered magic, because that's exactly how they should be.
Right. Well, I'm gonna say 2.5, since it's halfway through the star rating, would be passable or barely acceptable. Whereas 3 would be average, or 3.5 would be kind of like slightly above average, whereas 4 would be decent, 4.5 would be outstanding, and 5 would be like phenomenal, like the best game ever. And I don't really know how to grade those kind of things, but I would say somewhere from 3.5 to 4 would probably be my final statement. So let's just round it up. Since you say 4 and I say 3.5, let's just give the game a 4 out of 5. Pretty decent game.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
All right, well, let's just say bye to everybody. And
I actually do have another question.
Oh, okay. One more question.
What is in store for the audience?
What is in store for the audience? Well, for our 300th episode, which is coming up pretty soon, I'm going to begin World of Final Fantasy, a game that I've actually been looking forward to playing for a long while, and it actually looks pretty cute. And I have been prepared. I have been told that the opening cutscenes will be really long, and that there will be an enormous amount of tutorials at the beginning. But the gameplay is supposed to be fun. The battle system I've looked into is decent, and there are jokes, and it's humor that I can appreciate, and I think the storyline is something that I will definitely enjoy. I mean, I enjoyed this storyline for what it was, so even though the graphics aren't high resolution HD, it's got that amazing cartoony look that I just absolutely love and appreciate. So I'm gonna give World of Final Fantasy a spin, and I really hope that I enjoy it, and I really hope the audience enjoys me playing it. So that's gonna be the start off. That's gonna be the opener for our 300th video.
Awesome. And does it give you that whole Kingdom Hearts cartoony feel to it?
It does, but it's also turn-based, and it's going to feature something called stacking, where you can stack or unstack your party in order to change your
Gain
parameters and how your lineup works. So I think that'll be a really interesting and unique battle system that I'm ready to try out.
Yeah, it actually does sound like something I would actually play.
Yeah. So hopefully even you stick around and maybe watch, or maybe I can do a couple live streams of the more grindy stuff, because I love grinding, and it looks like one of those random battle encounter things. So maybe we'll have like a session where all I do is just battle the same 5 creatures over and over again.
Yeah. Have you ever didn't you say you wanted to play Resident Evil 7?
No, I don't recall saying that.
Oh. Actually, I think it might have been one of my friends. My bad.
Yeah, sorry. It's okay though. 6 was pretty good. Yeah, there's nothing really else I can say, so thank you guys for watching this really incredibly long video. I think 2 hours is probably the most it should ever be. So we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you so much for your patience. Thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed already, do so, please. And leave likes on videos that you really enjoyed. And, you know, comments and feedback are always appreciated, so that I know what it is that you look for in your video content. And we'll just kind of go from there. Picking up steam and going forth. Learning as we go.
I would like to say one thing.
What? You're making this video longer.
May the force be with you.
And also with you. Okay. Enough screwing around. Thank you so much.
Yep, no problem.